How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am rejoined by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find both of us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and will always be known as Twitter to me, at Dalton_Trigg and at Coach Drew 33. The Mavs, they have kind of hit a wall, is how I put it before me and DJ jumped on here. They've lost two straight games now. They're still 16 and 11. So, I mean, I think before this season started, and given how last season ended, if you had said, okay, well, the Mavs with a rookie starting center and a bunch of new pieces would be 16 and 11 after 27 games into this season, I think most of us would have taken that. It's solid. They're still top six in the West, so they've stayed out of that play-in part of the Western Conference standings so far. But it does feel like the injury bug has kind of crept up on them, and it feels like they've hit a wall, so to speak. Now Luka, he's playing at an all-time level. His December numbers are just silly. He's averaging like 36 points and 12 rebounds, along with 36 points, 12 assists, and also eight or nine rebounds. So he is on a tear. He's doing everything he can possibly do with Kyrie Irving out. Derek Lively has missed some games. Josh Green has almost missed double-digit games. He's missed 9 now. Maxi Kleba has apparently fallen off the face of the planet. He hasn't played in 22 games this season because of a dislocated toe. Don't know what's going on there. But, it's finally caught up with the Mavs. And, yeah, they're able to coast by, and they're able to beat the Portlands and the Memphises and the San Antonios of the world without those guys. But when you play teams like the defending champion Nuggets in the previous game, and then last night's game, the Clippers, who have now won 9 consecutive games, and they've really figured things out by sending Russell Westbrook to the bench. Now they've got things rolling with them. So it's going to be hard to win those type of games against the big time, the big boys, the actual title contenders when you're down so many bodies. And I mean, look, Luka's doing everything he can do. I still think he's a top MVP candidate this season, but the Mavs are going to have to get in that top 4 of the West, in my opinion, for him to have a real chance of winning that award this season, and for the Mavs to, do some real damage in the playoffs too. They really do need to get that home court and have that confidence in themselves going into the postseason. So, like I said, the most recent loss, 120-111. The Mavs had a 2-point lead with a little under 4 minutes left in the game, came all the way back from being down 22. Luka didn't have his best night, after he'd been playing so great lately. He didn't shoot well, 9 of 25 overall, 2 of 11 from 3, and he played 44 of the 48 minutes, which is something you don't like to see. But he's been having to play in those mid 40s the last several games just because of how depleted the roster is due to injuries. So the Mavs, they were out from when they took that 2-point lead with under 4 minutes left. They were outscored 14-3 to end that one. They just completely ran out of gas. So what is your, just looking at that Clippers game, how hot they were, how undermanned the Mavs were, and the effort they put forth? What was your initial takeaways from that one, DJ?
We're missing Kyrie Irving, and we're missing him badly. We talk about Luka's astronomical numbers, and they're awesome and everything, but it also is a cause for concern because, number one, his usage rate is higher than it's ever been. And so, that opens the door to some unsavory things. And also, it's hard to beat these teams that have 2 to 3 star caliber players. Say what you want about the Clippers, but they've kind of figured things out. Do I like James Harden? No, but they've kind of figured things out. And so Luka needs his running mate back. And, when Kyrie Irving's on, he's a top 5 player in the league whenever he's playing his best basketball. And without having him out there, Luka draws all the attention. And that's a problem. That was the main reason why we brought him in the first place. So I think once we get Kyrie back, you're going to see an immediate improvement in a lot of different facets of Mavericks basketball. something that we also need to consider is bringing in more firepower. And you and I discussed this earlier with the potential of trading maybe Tim Hardaway Jr., maybe Josh
Yes.
Green, maybe Maxi Cleaver, just something to bring in some more life to this. Because as you can see, whenever one of the Mavs' main two engines is out, we have problems. So we may want to look into that. And I know that, trade ideas is your big thing. So,
Well, look, I've said it since the beginning of the season. I didn't know if Tim Hardaway Jr. was going to be on the Mavs much longer based on how similar his skill set is to Jaden Hardy's.
mm-hmm,
Jaden isn't great at dribbling, but neither is Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, they're really catch and shoot guys. And Hardy, if given the volume that Tim Hardaway Jr. gets, he can do similar things. I mean, we saw it just last night. In 37 minutes off the bench for THJ, he was 8 of 21 overall, 3 of 11 from three, and had 21 points in 37 minutes now.
mm-hmm,
And then Hardy came off the bench, played 23 minutes, and he was 5 of 13 overall, 5 of 9 from three, even threw in an assist there and some rebounds and had 15 points in 23 minutes. So, I mean, he can do similar things. They're similar players. I don't think you need both of them.
mm-hmm.
And Hardaway, as good as he's been, like he's one of the 6 man of the year front runners with how he's played this year. As good as he's been, you might want to consider selling high on him while you can,
Yep.
because next he has one of those contracts that descends each year. It started out high and every year afterwards it's come down. So next season he's making 16 million on an expiring contract. Given that he averages 17, 18 points a game and shoots nearly 40% from three, that would be valuable for some teams out there,
Mm-hmm.
that need a little bit of extra firepower. And there are several different ideas that we could throw up against the wall. But one idea that really intrigues me, and I talked to you about it a little bit earlier, is the Chicago Bulls, who have been disappointing for a second consecutive season. There's rumors about them moving off of Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and all that. And the Mavs don't necessarily need those guys, but if they do blow it up and there's a fire sale on the roster, I'm looking at Alex Caruso and Andre Drummond. And that is something that could fit for Tim Hardaway Jr. And I think it could, you give a little bit more firepower to the Bulls coming off their bench, or if they want to start him even, depending on what they do with DeRozan and LaVine. And then, the Mavs, they get a really tough, defensive-minded guy in Caruso, who I think would fit excellent into what Jason Kidd is trying to do on the defensive end. Because, I mean, look, Kidd, he has his moments where there's like lapses and you think, well, he could have done this better. He even said it after that Denver game, even though the team is shorthanded, that he needed to do a better job coaching these guys that are available. So, I mean, he knows that. But we have seen in the past, like in the 2022 Western Conference Finals run, if you give him enough good defensive pieces on a roster, and it's a healthy roster, they can make some noise. I mean, that defense was one of the top defenses in the league that year. So I think if you give him some more pieces like that and you fix the center issue, then, the Mavs can make a lot more noise as this season progresses. Because, and look, Andre Drummond, he's not a defensive stalwart by any mean. I don't even know if I said that right. That's going to be a YouTube comment. Like when I called Herb Jones Herb Jones. But anyway, so Andre Drummond, he's not a defensive guy, but he's better than bringing Dwight Powell off the bench or having to go with Rashawn Holmes, who has been really inconsistent with the minutes he's gotten so far this year. And then obviously, Maxi Kleber, he might not even come back.
Yeah, really.
At this
Is
rate.
he alive?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I mentioned something on Twitter earlier today about, or maybe it was late last night, that is his pinky toe still with us? Like, what's going on there? And somebody said, I actually think if he had had the toe severed, he would have been back by now already. So I
Like,
don't
what
know.
is going on with it, man? Like,
I
what
don't
could
know. I mean,
possibly?
I don't know. And the thing is, and look, maybe it's just one of those weird injuries that just takes a lot more time than what we think. Because if you look back through NBA injury history, there's really not many comparable situations to this. I think there was one in like 2012, um, when a guy dislocated his pinky toe or something, but he was only out for like 2 weeks. So
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on. But, you know, if the Mavs could add some depth, they add more defense with Caruso, they help their big man depth. And if they can get healthy with, you know, Lively and Kyrie coming back, I think they'll be fine. But you just can't keep having these nights where, and look, Grant Williams, God bless him. He he started out this season great, but he has just been terrible here the last several games. And look, last night it was kind of deceiving because he ended up with 9 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. He even had a block thrown in there. He was 4 of 7 shooting overall, but he just the eye test. Like as I was watching it, I didn't think he was having a good game at all. And then I saw his stat line after, and you know, a couple people commented and said, "Oh, well, he had a good game." I didn't think so. You know, from what I was watching, I thought the Mavs were losing ground every time he was on the court, and he was giving up several, you know, silly and ones to Norman Powell, and you know, just not playing good defense, in my opinion. So there were a couple times where he bodied up Kawhi Leonard well, but you know, the quicker guys, he just can't stay with them.
yeah.
And you know, it showed in the plus minus too, because him and Dwight Powell were the team worst in plus minus. 31 minutes for Grant Williams, he was a negative 18, which
Hmm.
was by far the worst out of people not named Dwight Powell. And then Dwight Powell in just 18 minutes was a negative 17. That's even worse. That's negative 17 in 18 minutes. So,
That's awful. That's
you know, there's just a couple. I feel like people don't realize, like, it seems like there's a lot more that needs to be done with this team when they have games like they did last night and they go down 20 plus points early, and when they got blown out by 26 in Denver, despite Luka putting up a 38, 11, and 8 game. Uh, but there's really not that much needed to complete this team. They just need a couple more guys to plug in there to keep from, you know, I guess to keep my visual of it is like you have a boat and you have a hole in the boat where water's coming into the boat. You need a few plugs to put in there to keep the
hmm
boat from flooding. And that's what the Mavs need to do here. The health is the main thing. They need to get healthy, need to get Kyrie back, Derek Lively, even Josh Green would be a welcome sight coming back right now. So you need to do that. And then you need to consider turning some of these other guys like Hardaway Jr. and, you know, maybe even Josh Green, considering how, you know, Dante Exum has played. We talked about this earlier too. You know, we kind of feel like Dante Exum, the way he's played, has taken over Josh Green's spot.
Yep.
He is what we've wanted Josh Green to be this season. So Green might not even have a spot when he comes back from his elbow sprain. So I think you need to take those pieces that are redundant and turn them into what you actually need, which is another big wing if possible, and a serviceable backup big to Lively. And
Yes.
if you do that, and if you stay relatively healthy, you'll be fine. Because out of all the injuries they've had, out of all the stuff that has gone wrong, you're still 16 and 11, you know, almost 30 games into the season. And we're approaching Christmas. The next 2 games are doable because you're playing the Rockets and the Spurs, and then a
Hmm.
beat up Phoenix Suns team on Christmas. And then you play the Cavs after that, which I'll be at. I'll be going to that one. And the Cavs, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are out for several weeks, so they won't be playing in that one. So the Mavs have another chance to stack up some wins as we approach the end of the year here. They have a chance to take care of a favorable schedule after going through a little rough patch here. And if they do that and they get healthy heading into 2024, I think there's a lot to be excited for the rest of this season. But a lot of it's just out of their control, honestly. It's just you never know when Dwight Powell is going to fall on Kyrie Irving's ankle in Portland. And the same foot that's been giving Kyrie issues even before that happened, and then next thing you know, he's in a walking boot. But the good news is Kyrie is not in a walking boot anymore. Derek Lively is not in a walking boot anymore after spraining his ankle. So maybe those guys are getting pretty close to getting back into action. But
Lord, I hope so.
yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those. I try not to, I see a lot of overreactions on my timeline, and I mean, I get it. That's what being a fan is about. You're being a fan is irrational. You have emotions, whether they win, whether they lose. I try not to get too high or too low after each game, and I just, want to analyze what's going on and all the circumstances around it. I'm really not down on this team after two really bad losses. And well, last night wasn't a bad loss, but when you come back from being down that much and you still end up losing, it's disappointing. But I like I said earlier, I think it's just a case of they've reached their ceiling. They've done what they can do to stay afloat. Luka is averaging video game numbers in December, and he has kept them afloat with these injuries. They have a 5-4 record so far in December, which obviously you'd like that to be a lot better. But given what has happened, we'll take that. We have there's a 4-game win streak that's been thrown in there, and I just think that this is more of a basketball gods kind of thing, trying to be favorable on the Mavs going forward than it is anything the Mavs can do themselves, other than Nico Harrison trying to work the trade phones, because we're about a month and a half away from the trade deadline. And there's a lot of stuff that could be happening out there. It's not just the Bull. I mean, that's the main thing that comes to mind for me, because I feel like that's a situation where we could benefit from, a fire sale, depending on what happens with the other team's stars. But there's a lot of things that, Donovan Mitchell, he could be traded from the Cavs. And what does that do with the Cavs roster after that? What happens with Jared Allen, who has been on, he's been connected to the Mavs in the past. Uh, you know, what happens with the Lakers, who have been struggling here lately? Ever since they won that in-season tournament, I think they're like 1-4 in their last 5 games or something like that. Their ceiling is kind of low because you have 38-year-old LeBron James as your best player.
Yeah.
So, what do the Lakers do? There's several different combinations, and we're going to have to just one day take a pod and specifically talk about the trade options as we get closer to the deadline. But I get do you think Luka can get the Mavs through Christmas, through the end of the year, even with even with Kyrie and Lively out, or do you think it just is what it is right now? Because I look at the schedule and I think they can get through these next 4 realistically if he gets enough rest in between the games. But I mean, what do you think about these 2 games coming up specifically against the Rockets and the Spurs?
I don't think the Rockets and the Spurs have anyone who can stop Luka, personally. I think he'll be able to do whatever he wants to do. And really, I mean, out of those 2 games, the only one that really semi-concerns me is the Spurs, just given Victor Wembanyama. He's been playing pretty well, and I'm not
Take
sure
him
who.
out of a back-to-back too. That'd be tough.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure who you have guarding Wembanyama, but
White Powell.
anyway, maybe he'll fall on him now. I can't say that, but anyway, but I need to edit that part out. Anyway,
No, we know it's all jokes.
I think those 2 games are extremely winnable, especially the Rockets. Then after that, you said they have the Cavs, and who's the other team?
They play the Rockets first. They play the Spurs, and then they play the Suns on Christmas, who
Ooh,
haven't been good this year. They've been underwhelming. And then 2 days after Christmas, they play the Cavs, which are, they're hurting too. So
yeah,
to me, that's 4 very manageable games coming up after the team has had 2 really hard losses.
right. And the hardest one of that list is easily Phoenix, but just because of the manpower that they have. But again, you never count out Luka. You never bet against Luka. I've learned that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to produce. If there's one thing that's going to happen, you can count on taxes, you can count on death, you can count on Luka giving you 40. So, I mean, that's
Or close to it at the very
yeah,
least. He's gonna do some damage on that stat line.
absolutely. So, I like our chances, but I also see where there are some causes for concern, like against the Spurs. What's your answer for Wembanyama? For the Suns, what if they get rolling? Because they have multiple guys on that team who can be problems. The Cavs, they're laboring right now, but who knows? I mean, any given night, someone can beat you. That's the beauty of the NBA, and that's the scary part of the NBA. So
Yeah, maybe the Cavs will also trade Donovan Mitchell by the time that game comes around, and that'll be one less problem to deal with
I could
scoring
see it.
wise.
I could see it. There's also mumblings that he's going to demand a trade anyway. So I could see that happening. I could see him being traded to Miami for whatever. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that would fit given how Miami really wanted Damian Lillard.
Hmm.
Similar profile there. As far as being a high scorer like Lillard is, I could see that fitting in
Oh yeah.
Miami. So we'll see how it goes. Look, I think it's a manageable schedule for the Mavs. Hopefully, after Christmas and after that Cavs game, the Mavs are sitting at 20-11.
Mhm.
After having a couple of bad losses. If we've learned one thing about this team this year, they know how to bounce back. They don't stay down very long. That has something to say about their mental fortitude, and a lot of that has to go to Jason Kidd and his coaching staff too for keeping those guys like that. You can't let them get too down. Always keep them motivated. And it's like, hey, we're in a rough spot. We've got injuries. We're tired, but just stay the course and things will figure it out. For itself as the season rolls on. So,
Mhm.
guys, appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us here for a little bit. I hope everybody isn't too down, on the Mavs after what's happened in these last two games. I really do think it's just a case of they got to get healthy, and the Mavs front office, they know what the team's shortcomings are right now. And I can guarantee you that they're looking across the NBA landscape and surveying and seeing what they could potentially do to fill those holes as soon as possible. So uh, keep an eye on DallasBasketball.com. Any kind of rumors, any kind of speculation, any kind of little things that pop up related to the Mavs, game coverage, trades, anything, we stay on top of it all. Yesterday there was a betting odds thing that came out that had the Mavs tied with the Lakers for third on the betting odds list to land Gordon Hayward in a trade. Which, if that happened, I mean, he's on a $31 million expiring contract, so yeah, he could be helpful, but that could also be like a future move, looking at
Right.
trying to create some kind of cap space going into this next summer, which could be interesting. So
Oh yeah.
that's something to look forward to as well. But guys, be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We really appreciate it. We've had a great time doing this year. It's just exploded. It's gone bananas over there, and we have enjoyed every bit of it. So appreciate y'all. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and we will see y'all next time. If not before the end of the week, or at sometime during this back to back over the weekend, it'll be sometime early next week, or mid next week after Christmas. So guys, appreciate it. Y'all have a great one. We'll see you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everybody.